Hey everybody, Andy from Tennis Euphoria talking to you today about the Wilson Blade 100 V9, a popular frame that does well through our matching services. Mine was pretty low in swing weight. The specs on this is, of course, a 300 gram, 100 square inch, 22 millimeter beam, very popular category that this frame fits into, which I've talked a lot about recently, and I know a lot of other people have too. There's a lot of good frames in this increasingly popular territory. I think the Wilson Blade 100 has probably been accidentally really successful. I described the V8 as a hidden gem in my previous video on that. Check that out if you're still considering the V8. One note on quality control. I strung somebody's V9 100 the other day. As you can see, there's quite a difference with that one compared to mine. It's about 5 grams difference in weight, but that was leading to a 16-point-ish swing weight difference, and I think that would make quite a difference. So be careful when you're buying, or maybe use matching services to get things matched. One thing to cover: how does this compare to the already very good V8? So they are very similar, probably without any surprise. We have the same mold, same specs, really quite similar to the V998. You just have subtle changes in the feel and the playability. I think arguably you have perhaps a little bit more stability, and a slightly more plush feel from the V9 compared to the V8, but you would be able to interchange between the two without noticing really any significant difference in performance. I do think somebody could have the V9 maybe as their main stick and have the V8 as their spare, or vice versa, and wouldn't notice too much difference. Would I be rushing to update to the V9 from the V8? I do prefer the paint job, but I wouldn't necessarily be upgrading to the V9 expecting a huge jump forward in performance. Probably just a sort of subtle evolution around feel and stability. What we do have now is more clarity as to where the RA sits. It's reported at Tennis Warehouse to be at a 60 RA. I actually think the V9 feels very, very impressive for a 60 RA. It's got a lovely feel to the frame. Out of all of the competitors to this, the Speed MP, the Dunlop FX400 Tour, Percept 100, etc., I think most players who are after a control frame and want dwell time and a sort of plush feel will enjoy the feel of the Blade 100 the most. Trying to demonstrate there that the 100 square inch head, although that was the V8, can be hit with a one-hand backhand. Should you consider the 100 over the 98? So I think that players will get more comfort from the 100. Look at that shape of that Blade 100's head shape, even next to some of the other hundreds. It's quite sort of circular and wide. That delivers a really good kick serve, more forgiveness, definitely more comfort than the 98. The Blade 100 is also excellent at net. I think that relatively large sweet spot, and it's still being very fast through the air means that you can dig out volleys. And I think that Wilson do have in some of their technology, probably at the moment, some market leading technology around delivering to stability. I mean, Head's Auxetic 2.0 does something that's very similar, I think, to Wilson's stable feel and 45. 45 for Wilson supposedly affects the vertical swing path and delivers stability whilst increasing flexibility. Who knows about that marketing jargon, but what I would say that for mine being at a low swing weight, this was remarkably playable and quite stable. I would certainly beef mine up if I was to use it, and I could get more performance out of it from taking that swing weight up to something similar to my customers was, sort of 325 to 330. But I don't think many players would absolutely need to do that if they had one that was, touch under spec on swing weight. It is, very stable. I suppose the other thing to sort of talk a bit about is which one should you go for if you're fitting into this category of still wanting a control orientated frame, but perhaps are looking for a little bit more power and forgiveness compared to some of the 98s. Well, I always try and sort of run my demo videos to sort of demonstrate as much as I can. I think the Blade V9 is great if you want to play aggressively, and probably is the most controlled out of all of the other main competitors. So I think if you're someone who wants to play aggressively and hit your targets, then this is probably the best option for that type of player within this category. I do find that in our play tests, most people who are using the 98 or hitting the 98 alongside this perform better with this. I think that extra bit of forgiveness and the extra sweet spot for most players, unless you're seriously advanced, you're going to probably play a little bit more effectively with it. And I do also notice that some Blade 98 users, there is a bit of a correlation from what I notice in consultations around tennis elbow. Now, I don't think that's anything to do with the Blade 98 being uncomfortable. I think it's more about it having a relatively challenging sweet spot, people not hitting optimally with it and hitting off center a fair bit, and that's jarring. Whereas the 100, you do have much more forgiveness. So comparing to the others, I think you'd probably go for the Blade 100 in this category for the most control, most power and spin, the Percept, the Speed MP and the Dunlop are sort of, in between all of those. But of course, it's going to be subjective. It's an excellent frame. Go out and demo it. Please do subscribe and like for future videos. See you in the next one.